Hey everybody, welcome back to Off the Wall. I'm Mike.
I'm Sol.
And I'm Bogz.
And today we're finally breaking down the Ms. Marvel season finale, maybe series, depending on how things go, which just dropped on Disney Plus this week. Did they stick the landing? How does it compare to the rest of the Disney Plus Marvel series? That's kind of what we're going to talk about here today. Full disclosure, I'm just going to throw this up right now. Not even going to try to go with this at this point because there's a lot to get into actually. I'm just going to go right to you guys. Start with you, Bogz. How do you feel about just the finale itself? Like, do you think they stuck the landing? How do you think it fared as far as the show overall?
For the most part, they did. Yes, I was a little relieved after our review last week. I was dreading a bit because they had a lot of storylines and character arcs to kind of tie up for this series, because obviously they haven't, as you said, they haven't announced the series 2 or anything like that. So obviously the last episode was still in Pakistan, so they had a lot of home stuff to deal with, and for the most part they did. Surprisingly, tied off a lot of got a lot of answers. Some storylines were done. She dealt with the damage control situation, and the friend stuff got resolved, and she learned more about the hero stuff and the Cameron stuff, and the family situation. So a lot of things, a lot of boxes got to. It was not a perfect episode at all, but obviously a couple of cool twists at the end as well, which we'll get into, of course. But overall, I was quite definitely a fun, joyful episode. Entertaining, better than the last couple of episodes, to be honest. But overall, a decent enough episode, and reasonably strong finish.
And so, what about you? How did you feel about the way they wrapped up this season? And do you think they did the rest of the show justice as a finale compared to maybe some other shows we've had in the past?
And I just felt relief after watching, because I was dreading this episode, because this might be my favorite of the MCU shows, and I was going, they might mess this up. They might mess this up. They're gonna mess this up. They've been messing these up the whole time. That's all I've been thinking. I was like, I kept delaying watching the episode during the day because I was like, I'm gonna be disappointed and I'm gonna be sad. And then I watched it and I was like, kind of to what Bogz was saying, was it perfect? No. But did they tie up each storyline? Yes, they did. We got a contained story. Guys, we got a contained story on Disney Plus.
Kind of. I like the episode. Like you guys, like we talked last week, we were all pretty kind of like waiting with bated breath, like what was going to happen here, because a lot of these Marvel shows haven't done as well with the final episodes, and with this one, it seemed like there was still a lot to wrap up. It was like 45 minutes long, give or take, which I think was a decent length for what we had to do. But I also think they used the time really well. And when you're dealing with a show like this, which has already utilized creative editing and things, it kind of helped with that as well. I think for the most part, it did pretty good. Like you saw, I said this is leaning towards probably my second favorite of the shows that they've done so far. I think Moon Knight is still my favorite, but I have an unabashed love for that character, so that's part of the reason why. The way they handled the stuff with damage control, with her coming into her own as a hero, and some of the things that got teased towards the end definitely had me excited and dancing around my living room a little bit. Which I think there were two kind of really big reveals with this episode. One was in our post-credit scene, which was the obvious setup for the Marvels, which we know is coming out, I believe next summer is when that's coming out. And then also hinting more at Kamala's origin of her abilities, continuing to retcon-ish this character with the indication that she's the MCU's first mutant. We got the sound tag like we did in Doctor Strange. It was a little more electric. It was like the synth, like then they said the M word. they said mutation. So we're there, and I'm going to go to Soul first on this one. The mutation, the sound tag. How did you feel about the direction they're kind of taking Kamala's origin with this version of this character?
So yeah, she's Inhuman in the comic. I guess with that show, which I did not see, but people say was not very good. People are like, we don't need to discuss Inhumans in the MCU at all. And I think Inhumans were kind of brought back in a time when it was Fox still owned X-Men, and they were like, we're not going to help them by giving comic books for people to then like go see their movies. Let's create something else like the Inhumans. So that's when they stopped doing X-Men comics and doing more Inhuman comics, and then that's when Miss Marvel came out. So if Fox did not own X-Men, or if they weren't like playing a business role, she might have been a mutant, kind of in the same way that. So to me, I don't really care that they retconned it. And it makes a little bit more sense of like, why doesn't her mom have powers, or her brother, kind of thing. Be like, oh, it's because she had the X gene. But for the final scene with the Carol Danvers, at first, when I first saw it, I was just like, oh, this episode's called No Normal. That's the title of the first comic of Miss Marvel, and I was just like, oh, she turns into Carol Danvers. She has that shape-shifting ability. When she gets the power, she wakes up as the blonde Miss Marvel, what Carol Danvers used to go by, and her old costume. And I was like, oh, that's what's happening here. And then so many people online are like, those are the nigga bands. Those are the nigga bands. And I was like, I don't know what that is because I haven't read that comic. But I think Mike has more to speak on that, on what the nigga bands are. But I was like, okay, this is cool.
It is. I think I was with you at first. I was like, oh, she shapeshifted into Captain Marvel. It was when she started like looking around, like, where the hell am I? Oh, no. And I was like, oh, I think maybe they did some negaband place swapping. I'm not going to go too much into but basically the negabands were kind of the original source of Kree power that Captain Marvel got her powers from. It's not enough time in this episode to really go into it, but Google it. And Bogz, what about you as far as how they utilized making Kamala a mutant, as well as the Captain Marvel cameo setting up for the movie?
Yeah, so with the whole, because from what the show's told me, she got her powers from the bangle, and I didn't think anything other than that. Like, I didn't think she had any additional powers. And Cameron has a kind of parallel power, which is given to him, who knows how, by his mum. But I thought that's how they had their powers. And then they kind of obviously revealed that, you have some kind of mutant thing. When I heard it, I kind of like, I froze, rewound it. Did I hear that right? As an official confirmation, obviously we did get that in Doctor Strange, the latest one, but that was obviously in a multiverse type setting, so it wasn't an official confirmation in the actual MCU. This was, as far as I'm aware, this is the first confirmation. And I rewound, and the second time I heard it, I swear I had goosebumps. Because the animated series with that theme, that was, that one, I'd say Spider-Man animated series and probably Batman animated series, that they were my Saturday morning TV shows as a kid. So I have a pure love for that show. So just hearing the theme, super excited. I think I had a little lump in my throat as well, even just for like a split second, like, oh my God, they're doing that. So it was good, unexpected, pleasantly. I didn't totally understand why they did it overall, because like I said, to me, they spelled out they purely got her power from the bangle. So why they've done it, I'm not 100% sure or clear as to why. But either way, I'll take it, if just to hear the theme, if anything, because it's one of my favorites. But with the Carol Danvers one, again, I've not read any kind of material of Miss Marvel, anything along the lines, or the Marvels prior to the show. So I had no idea what was going on there. I didn't think it was I actually thought that was Carol Danvers there, but I thought, oh, how did she get there? What's going on here? And she kind of runs out. So I was just complete lost during that scene, but I was kind of relieved that it happened because I was thinking, are they just not gonna? Is she just not gonna be in this, or like what's going on here? So yeah, obviously it appeared. It's just like a random cameo to me, to be honest. Obviously, I haven't explained how she's there, what she's doing, what's going on, where's Kamala. So yeah, I'm just one of them clueless people, like kind of looking for theories. But yeah, I think the X-Men thing got me. Like I said, if you rewind the scene, first time watching it, it gets you. So yeah, definitely, it's one of my favorites, kind of show themes. So yeah, I loved it for the couple of seconds we got it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Those three shows, Batman, X-Men, and Spider-Man, were my bread and butter growing up. And when they, dropped that tag in Doctor Strange the first time, I was like, oh, cool, neat. Like, that's neat, especially because they modeled it after that version of Professor X. Them doing it again this time in the show has me going, okay, no, we're doing this. Like, you could have written, we know that the mutants are in effect coming at some point. That's kind of part of the reason why the whole Fox buyout happened. So we knew it was coming eventually, but nothing has ever been confirmed. We knew Fantastic Four was coming sooner. And it also reminded me of when, we were first getting Spider-Man Homecoming. They took the original 60s Spider-Man theme song and repurposed it for the score. The da-na-na-da-na-na. So, also knowing that this X-Men 97 animated series is coming back on Disney Plus, I think later this year, it just seems like they're really playing back into that hand. And it's like, okay, no, they're really going to be going forward. This is probably where they're going to be drawing a lot of their inspiration from, I would imagine, if they're willing to go as far as to use that sound tag. So yeah, like you, when it happened, I froze. Like I backed it up and checked it like 2-3 more times. I was like, there's no way. Like I was completely flabbergasted. As far as the Captain Marvel cameo, I think that's actually a scene from the movie, probably, that they probably shot. They did that in Ant-Man when Civil War was coming. They used that one scene as a post-credit scene. So I think that might be more. This will have some context to it when that movie comes out next year. But we also got to see her in her costume for the first time in this. I don't think they confirmed if it was made or ordered. I think it was made by her mom because it was in that toffee box that was big with her and her mom. You know what? I got to say, it was nice to see a costume in the MCU that wasn't CGI, because a lot of the costumes are CGI. I thought it looked pretty good. Bogz, what about you? How'd you like the overall, like the look of her?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've seen it in some of the marketing and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it looks kind of homemade in a way, but not so much homemade that that it looks sufficient enough. But yeah, she does have the Clark Kent style glasses. Like, she takes the mask off and all of a sudden she looks totally different, or she just slips it back on and off. But I just want to mention one thing about that the X-Men reveal.
Yeah,
is that I think for me this is the first time as well from any Disney Plus show that we've actually got a worthwhile, like a big reveal in a Disney Plus show, because for me, anything I've seen in a Disney Plus show hasn't connected to a movie or a bigger storyline as of yet. The only real thing off the top of my head is where Wanda has been prior to the events of Doctor Strange. Like, if you watch WandaVision, you knew that. But that Loki, there's nothing so far from that. Obviously, apart from a few cameos here and there from for Falcon and Winter Soldier, obviously Hawkeye as well. There's nothing connecting to the movies. This is the first thing which could be an indication of a bigger thing that they're going into through later phases potentially. So that was definitely, it's an exciting reveal as opposed to the kind of previous episodes. But yeah, the her kind of her outfit's cool. Yeah, I guess so. She's obviously got the red thing, whatever, scarf, I guess she's wearing.
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's fine. It's I did notice some of the CG wasn't amazing when she is Do you remember when she's running around the city at the start during and she like, stops for the red light? I didn't kind of totally get that as well, but there was a lot of CG there. But I understand what you mean. She's not in CG a lot, when she's wearing the outfit. But yeah, it was fine. I didn't have much issues with it because it's just for the small superhero contained story that she's in, where she's kind of on the run really for most of it. She's helping out her friends in her school. So for them kind of missions and stuff, yeah, it's fine enough suit, I guess. So yeah.
What about you, Slow? What did you think of the overall design of her costume and how it looked, how it played to live action?
I loved it. I loved her costume. And with the whole homemade thing, in the comic book, she does make her own costume, completely homemade. It's out of like a bathing suit, but like a long, like one of those, I forget the name that she calls, but it was like the type of bathing suits that like has you covered from like head to toe.
Oh, like the burkinis or whatever they're
burkini,
called?
there you go. Yeah, so she made her costume out of a burkini.
Yeah.
So
that's weird.
In the comic book. And so I was just like, this actually looks better than the comic book, but it's still comic book accurate with the colors and the thing and the marking on it. And I just love seeing her sit on the lamppost because that's one of the covers.
Yeah, that's one of those iconic Ms. Marvel images, like Batman on a gargoyle, Spider-Man on top of a tower, Ms. Marvel sitting on the lamppost is iconic. I was actually surprised it looked as good as it did, because we had seen while they were in Pakistan, like a lot of the clothes she was wearing resembled, like she had like the blue vest on with the red shirt underneath. I thought maybe they were gonna like make it out of that, and it looks like they just went full blown, like it's made out of whatever material her mom likes to make Hulk costumes with, which I was still kind of bummed we didn't get a reappearance of Hulk Dad, but it's fine. It is what it is. Let's get into kind of the main meat of the episode, which is essentially the Home Alone sequence in the high school versus with the group versus damage control, because I think this is kind of for lack of a better word, for me, it's kind of the weakest part of the episode for a couple different reasons. I don't know about how you guys feel. Bogz, I'll go to you first. How did you feel about all the stuff in the high school?
One last thing about a costume. I thought the red dagger scarf thing, I thought it was to like represent like a shawl, like Asian girls wear a part of Asian outfits, what they have. So I that's what I saw it as anyway. But with the whole, I kind of liked the whole high school thing, to be honest. It was very tongue-in-cheek, very reminiscent of 80s and 90s coming of age high school things, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, or just so many of these references and properties that I just feel like they've taken it straight out of there and put it in this setting. And it was all like, even their plans, like you said, very Home Alone-esque. We're using the gear in school and the school setting. Like I felt like that was met with the threat that they had, because there isn't a real main villain in the show. It's not being fleshed out, to be honest. So they've just got damage control, and keeping damage control at bay with the things you have in school with your friends. I just took it for what it is. So because, like I said, there wasn't a major threat there, I kind of bought it. I thought it was okay. Again, there was so many plot conveniences within that, and things that just kind of conveniently fell into place, and her family cheering on outside and things like that. So yes, it was a bit cheesy, but for the lightheartedness of the setting and the kind of problem that they were overcoming as a group, as a friend group, I kind of took it for what it was. So they kind of spelled it out in front of you, like, this is a low level problem, with damage control, with one kind of lady that's in charge who's not listening to her superiors and going a bit overboard, and here's how we're going to stop them and delay things. And I took it for what it was. Yeah, they were using kind of bullets at times and things like that, but yeah, overall I kind of it was kind of sweet lightheartedness, coming of age high school stuff. So, and that's how I took it. Did I want something more epic? Sure, but for what it is, I think they handled it quite kind of sweetly, really. Yeah, very tongue in cheek. I absolutely got annoyed at some of the conveniences, but I let it slide.
So, what about you? How did you feel about the high school stuff?
It was absolutely cheesy, and I loved every minute of it inside the high school. So, like, inside the building itself, just
Yeah.
everything that they were doing. I thought it was just like, it was just cute. Like, you're watching it, and wow, Dom Toretto outside. But um, I just thought, like, each time I was watching, I was like, this is absolutely adorable. Like, and the fact too, like, people just popping up, and I'm like, okay, Zoe's here. Okay, her brother's here. And kind of like, oh, mom said for me to watch after you. Goes, superheroes don't need chaperones. So, like, I thought just each of those moments was just very, very cute. Yes, it was like kiddie and more like coming of age kind of thing. But it reminded me of like just high school, like movies that you would watch, like The Breakfast Club, kind of just them in detention and running around the high school. Like, I was thinking of that while I was watching. What I had more issue with is when the fighting goes to outside. There is some CG stuff that I think they ran out of their CG budget by the end of this episode, and just like started full on using bullets, because like before they were using stuff that non-lethal, probably still hurts, but non-lethal, and then like that bitch, she's a bitch. And I was like, with her gun, like pointing straight at Kamran, and like having like wanting them to actually shoot them with real bullets. And I was like, whew. And I think too, with just recent videos that have come out recently in real life of how cops behaved, kind of like, you're just like, fuck these guys.
Yeah, that's kind of, which I think is why the episode came with a like viewer discretion advised slate at the top.
Yeah.
For me, like was the stuff in now the stuff outside of the high school, fighting in the parking lot or whatever? Yeah, the stuff in the high school, kind of like was it fun and cheesy? Yeah, it was a lot of convenience though, like Bogz. There was a lot of times where I was like, how did they put all of this together in so short amount of time? Man, damage control moves really slow. Like, how did they go around the school, collect all these hoodies, set up all these fire extinguishers, get all these softballs, set up all these traps with desks and chairs, plan out all these escape route in like couple of minutes, I would assume, because damage control was already there when they started doing that. Also, real crackerjack job with security there, damage control, because her brother just sneaks into the building, just like, yeah, just climb to the back window. No, and no one stopped you. Okay, cool. I think it was more of a, we needed more people, and they were just like, okay, well, Zoe, who we haven't seen since episode 2, uses the theater for her TikToks, and she just happens to be there on a Saturday night. Okay, sure. And I guess she doesn't suck now, even though she sucked like when last time we saw her. So it was
kind of the comics though. Like, she starts off sucking in the comics and then becomes a decent human being in the comics.
Know, it's just we haven't seen her in 4 episodes.
Yeah, true.
Same with the lady from Damage Control. We haven't seen her in like 3 episodes because we just kind of abandoned that for a while. And then the guy who was there in the 2nd episode, like, okay, so I guess he's her superior. I didn't get that the last time we met. I thought they were just working together, and I don't know. I kind of wish we had picked a bad guy. Were we going to have the bad guy be Damage Control, or were we going to have it be the clandestine? I kind of think we sacrificed one for the other and then brought the other one back, like right in the last episode, and it just didn't. Again, like the episode a lot, but I had to suspend a lot of disbelief for some of this stuff. And also, yeah, why was it all non-lethal? Okay, they're outside. All right, shoot them. Okay. Seems like a weird power move, but again, I kind of get what they were going for. But what I appreciated the most about this episode, and I think you guys will probably agree, was what I think they've done best this whole season, which is the family dynamic and the stuff with the family. We got that right at the top with I'm what is it, Light Girl or something like that. They're all just like, oh,
Nightlight, I think
what?
it is.
You don't say. You told him already. I look, I told him, but he talks on speakerphone. How did you feel they handled all the family dynamic stuff with this episode? Sol, we'll start with you, as kind of compared to the rest of this season.
I mean, anytime when she's with her family, those are the best parts for me. I love her brother. I want her family to be in so many scenes in the Marvels. Like, can they just be in like every scene in the Marvels? Because I love them so much. And isn't that just so accurate too? Be like, yeah, dad speaks on speakerphone, so we hear every conversation. That's just the case, just like we can hear my dad right now. So
Yeah.
God, the noises. I'm so sorry, guys. But so I was just like, yep, this is accurate. And it was just the playing of like, oh my God, really? Like I loved it. And there's the full in going in like, we have questions for you. We want to know more and more and more. And then her dad still being worried about her and be like, you're not looking for trouble, right? And her just like, well, you've taught me to always like help people in need. And so I kind of like just love that dynamic that's so different from other like superheroes, because typically we have a lot of superheroes, especially like recently, that like you have one parent dead or two parents dead, or you have deadbeat parents, or like you have family members like and they have those issues there, and she has a completely intact family who loves and supports her and there is there for her, and I find that so refreshing.
I think her parents secretly have superpowers because that's the only explanation for why we can have a superhero with two alive parents. I think they're immortals or something like that. Because
You think
how
it's
else?
like a Sky High
Yeah,
kind of
because
situation?
she's a superhero, she can't have two happy alive parents. That's not how it works. Read a comic book. I'm kidding. Bogz, what about you? How'd you feel about kind of handling the family stuff as they've done in this episode and throughout the season?
But you have a point there, Mike. Like that is quite an unusual thing. Like not just they're alive, but like the whole family being in on her identity and knowing that was, it's kind of refreshing, that because you don't normally get that. They're always hiding and trying to protect them, and but like her, I didn't think I would like that if you told me beforehand, but like all of her friends know, her family all know, so they can all kind of help her and guide her because she's clearly a low level superhero. So she needs as much help as she can get. She's a teenager that's coming of age, whatever. So they're all there to kind of support her and lift her up. And yeah, getting the, we all kind of guessed, her family going to know by this finale, and they almost immediately they get straight to it, where she kind of apologizing for all the kind of things that she's annoyed her parents about, and I'm always at the start like, yeah, just come on, just move along. And hearing her dad say what he said, Tobato, I hear that every day around my area. That is specifically Pakistani Urdu thing. It means something along the lines of forgive her, or like she didn't mean that, or that kind of thing. It's quite a religious thing to say, which is, again, that's some of my favorite things in the show. There's surprisingly good dialogue, realistic dialogue throughout the whole show, and even later on, where she's kind of talking to her dad throughout the episode, he's giving her these little lessons, and some of the kind of things that she's sitting down with him when they were literally sitting down outside, he's actually giving her Islamic lessons that you learn and they teach about, but they've written it in the show it just sounds like fatherly advice, but it's not. When they say, like, when you say one person, it's like saving the whole of humanity. I mean, this is like very important things in Islam, and the inverse as well. Like, if you were to murder anyone, it's like murdering the whole of humanity, that kind of thing. That these are like core principles, in the kind of religion. So like they're doing it in the show, in a mainstream show, it's still so surprising, and they make it so relevant to the story, and it makes you kind of be invested in this family and these characters, because we're all helping each other. And like I said, it's a unique thing for me. Like, you don't see these families helping their superhero sibling or child, or it was a kind of refreshing take, to be honest. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed all of that. And they like you guys said, they were probably the best part of the show. And yeah, being continuously surprised at the dialogue, it was really like I said, best parts of the show.
And before I forget, real quick, too, like in the first episode when the whole like, oh, it's not that we don't trust you, and then her mom's like, I don't, and then in this episode we trust her, right? So that just like complete 180 of her mother, which I find so funny that people are like, she's such a strict mom, like, and after the first episode, and I was like, she let her go to that party in the second episode. She's not that strict. But just that like 180 there of like they had to have that journey through these 6 episodes to be like, no, I trust my daughter fully.
And that was why I think my favorite moment of the episode is at the end when it's her and her dad sitting on the roof. Because we had like 2-3 whole episodes of just her and her mom's relationship, which we knew was a little tense kind of at the beginning, and this was their way of kind of having that coming together. And because from the trailers, I think I had said before, like we thought like the dad was going to be kind of this big thing, and the dad was around but not as much as the mom, and so it was great having that moment with him. Because we get a really nice, sweet moment. I mean, I was a little choked up watching that moment, talking about how, well, your mom and I tried for a long time to have another kid. We didn't think it was going to happen. You came out and you were perfect. And that also leads into kind of where her name comes from. And I was like, that's such a, and I'm not as familiar with the comics as you might be, Soul. So I don't know if that's from the comics of how she gets her name. The Ms. Marvel thing, her name, Kamala means Marvel, but I don't care if it was or not. It was so lovely, and I loved it. And I loved the hug. I loved the hug before she went off to go do superhero stuff. And just, yeah, if there's one thing I can say about this show, it's such a great family show. Not so much that it's a family friendly show, which I think for the most part it kind of actually walks that line pretty well, but it's a show about family, like suck it, Fast and Furious. Like, this is the show. This is the family story. That, because I think it's whether you're Pakistani or Muslim or whatever or nothing, like everyone I think has had family moments like these, and that's what makes it so relatable for everybody. Is the show, we all have families, we all come from families that love us and just want the best for us.
It's good writing, man. It's good writing.
It's damn good writing. I will say, I think this had some of the best writing. I think it's had the best writing of all the Disney Plus Marvel shows.
And can we talk real quick that G. Willow Wilson cameo that we got with the TikToks?
Oh yeah,
which I loved the fact that, like, because of Zoe and her TikTok, like, and just like her like being a TikTok star, that everything goes off on TikTok. And so we get G. Willow Wilson saying, she seems so familiar. I was like, I had to rewind it because I was like, that's G. Willow Wilson. And then the creator of this character. And then I loved the I'm a hot dog. Hopefully this hot dog is halal.
It reminded me of there's a hot dog place I love to go to in Chicago. That's it's a hot dog place, but they do all halal hot dogs, and that's like their big. So the whole time he was doing that, I was like, I wonder if it's a hot dog house hot dog.
I'd say that some of the I will say that some of the humor on this episode was a little on the nose for me. Like some of the things in the mosque where you can't hide here, it's under surveillance, and the halal and haram hats. It's a little too it's like sledgehammer humor, like it's a little too on the nose for me. I didn't really laugh at them things, to be honest. I'm sure people did and stuff, but because they immediately took them off as well. She's like, "What are you wearing?" Like, take them off, because I think that it's a little too they're not. It's not as subtle as the other humor. Or it's not as smart or charming. But I did get a few of that this episode, to be honest. But overall, the writing, it makes people care about these characters we've never seen before. How are we more invested in this than Falcon and Winter Soldier? It's crazy, really. But credit to the team.
into the
Yeah.
baseball caps. The reason I laughed, not because it said halal or haram, it's just that they keep using baseball caps as disguises, and it doesn't work. And I love that in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Scott Lang goes, "We're not in disguise. We just look like we're going to a baseball game." Like,
I even think this moment in Miss Marvel was them poking fun at themselves, because he's like, "You need a disguise," puts the hats on them, and they just stand there like, "Okay," and he
Right.
goes, "What? Go!" It's almost like they were saying, "Wait, that's it? That's it." So I almost feel like it was them poking fun at themselves, because they've probably heard, because I mean that's such a meme nowadays, the idea that like, oh, put on a hat, now I'm invisible and no one can see
Yeah,
me.
that's part of it.
But I mean, there was a couple times where like not every joke can land. Not every joke's going to be a winner. You know, it is what it is. But if that's the biggest complaints I'm going to have, is that sometimes the jokes didn't land, and you know, some of the convenience was a little much. But with writing this good, I don't care. I'm trying to think. I think that's kind of the big stuff we had. I don't know what's going on with Damage Control. I know they've been trying to make Damage Control work in the MCU for a while. There was supposed to be a spin-off show that never happened. I think I don't need to see Damage Control ever again, if I'm being totally honest. We've seen them now and a couple times, and I'm good.
Yeah, a couple of things I didn't like in this episode that I mentioned. That definitely the low level threat of Damage Control. You know, throughout the episode, I'll tell you early on, I just knew nothing that bad was going to happen, because, like I said, the lack of villain, lack of a fleshed out villain, really throughout the series, but mainly the last couple of episodes. You know, once the clandestines kind of are out of the way. Yeah, there was no real threat, so I kind of knew, even though the main lady, she was like, you know, she was super annoying, like, and you know, going through the mosque again with no shoes on, with the shoes on, and just insubordinate nature of how she was being. But I'd also say, you know, a couple of other things I didn't like, I'll be honest. So again, it was more, I genuinely thought they would actually mention or reference how Cameron got his powers off his mother somehow, even just like a scene or two. And I was really hoping, I didn't think they would, but I was really hoping for them to explain Kamala's powers just a little bit. Like, it's kind of unexpected what she's like. I have no clue what her actual powers or abilities are. Like, your hands get really big and it's like glass, and you have glass platforms that you jump on. Like, I don't totally love the CG around it as well, I've got to be honest. And her and Cameron, you know, having the whole kind of fight and standoff things, like, I don't love their powers, I got to be perfectly honest. So and just how Cameron was kind of like getting up and down really with his aggression this episode, again, because, you know, I never bought that he was going to be a villain, or you know, I never felt like he was in danger with Kamala, or she was in danger with him at all. So didn't love that whole storyline, and they kind of save him at the end. You know, goes off with the red daggers. So yeah, again, I didn't love the camera stuff, but obviously they've kept him around for. We'll see what's to go on there. But yeah, a few things I didn't like this episode, and some of the stuff, the fight scene as well outside, I thought was a bit rough, to be honest, with all the family cheering her on, and then kind of coming in to surround her as she kind of goes off. Again, very, very cheesy, very tongue-in-cheek, but I did accept that in line with what happened earlier on in the episode, you know, with the high school stuff and the kind of you know, fun things that they were doing in the high school to keep off Damage Control. So again, like you, Mike, I was swallowing a lot of things, plot conveniences, etc. Because, you know, the stuff that we do get, the heartwarming family stuff, which was fantastic, I'd say, earlier on in the season, I kind of let slide because we were getting sprinklings of it this episode. But yeah, there were some things I almost fully didn't like. But obviously, you know, it did finish strong because, you know, it did tick off a lot of boxes, you know, ticked off, you know, her friend situation, ticked off her family situation. You know, she's stronger with her powers. You know, Bruno's situation got sorted, Cameron's situation got sorted. And then we got the X-Men reveal, then the Carotine. So it kind of went down and then up towards the end. So, and obviously what they've tried to do with the whole series, you know, it does overall end on a positive, but there were some things in this episode, in the last couple of episodes, I really that made it Disney Plus, doing the whole tropes thing, very Moon Knight-ish, very Loki-ish, but it kind of ended with a high. So I was pleasantly overall happy with the series, but yeah, with some rough moments in this and the last couple of episodes, to be honest.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think the middle towards the end of this episode is where it suffers the most, and not that it's bad, it's just not as good as everything else around it. I completely forgot about the stuff with Kamran, which I think is kind of a testament to how
it's forgettable. You're
it's
totally right. It's absolutely forgettable.
It doesn't really that's where I think the writing suffered too. Was it just seemed like he was all over the place. One minute he's cool and on board with everything, and then suddenly he's super pissed
and
off
he's like Riz Ahmed 1 minute, and like another Riz Ahmed song in this still.
Which I mean, it's a good song, but I was just like I almost feel like we didn't need Kamran for this. The way Kamran was utilized throughout the whole season, you could have just taken him out and written around, filled in this blank somewhere else.
I thought he was just going to be a love interest at the start. I thought that was fine. They brought the whole clandestine thing, and it didn't really go anywhere apart from him getting the powers off his mother.
Which I think we got way more explanation for Kamala's powers than we did for his. His just came out of nowhere.
And I think because his powers are supposed to, I guess in the show, because like not the case in the comics, but in the show they're the same as hers, so they're like it's kind of explained through her. So like, but not really. With the things I didn't like so much about this, and like it's just the show of just not knowing who the big bad was. So like we started, we're like, oh, is DODC the big bad? Oh no, it's the clandestines. And I was like, okay, that's a more threatening big bad. And then when they were fighting at the wedding, we're like, okay, they're not really using superpowers, but they are they seem more menacing than the DODC. And then they were taken out like that in the last episode, which I know all of us said we did not like that.
Yeah.
And then the DODC comes back, and so it's just like when you go from something that seems so like dangerous to then going back to like just a government agency, there's kind of like a drop off. Like yeah, they have guns. That wasn't cool, but
yeah,
it's so that part. And then also in the last episode, which we didn't really I didn't speak too much about it, and then this episode, it's when she's getting to those like really emotional Iman Vellani, like when she was speaking with Kamran's mother last, like I was just like, this acting really shows, yeah, this is her first thing. So like the acting level wasn't there, but I was just like, this is her first thing, so I'm gonna let that slide. And it kind of happened a little bit with Kamran in that bubble thing, like that overacting kind of like moment where like you're like, oh, I need to express this, so I'm just gonna get louder kind of thing. And it's just like, so I hope in the future, because I see such good acting from her in like other scenes and throughout this whole series, I was like, in the future she's gonna be so good. That'd be so good.
Yeah, and it's acting for TV is tough, and acting for superhero TV is even tougher. And when it's your first time acting in anything, I mean, that's a tall order. So her acting performance, I'd give it a solid like B+ A- for this whole show.
Yeah.
And for a first time actor, that's pretty damn good. So yeah, I get what you're coming, but yeah, I'm looking forward to what else she's gonna do with this character, and she's gonna start getting offers for other stuff. I mean, I'm sure she already has. I'd be offended if she hasn't, honestly, because I think she's really good and got a lot of promise. But let's talk about that. Like overall, this new character, this new hero, this new lead. How do we feel about her overall? I know we've sung a lot of her praises, but just like to kind of tie things off here, how are we feeling overall about the character of Miss Marvel in the MCU? Bogz, we'll start with you.
Surprisingly, I like her. I from not even having any interest in watching this show to almost kind of falling for this lead. Yeah, you can see sometimes she's particularly with the emotional stuff, she's not the most polished. She's not a finished article, but the amount of charm that she has, and I just feel like I can feel her love for the MCU and this character, like her real life love. It comes out in her work, and she's got a lot of talent. She's charming, she's funny, and yeah, I am looking forward to her next project. Whether it's this or something else. I've got my eye on her now because she's to be her first thing that she's ever done. She's carried a unique, property with a huge reveal in the Golden Good, definitely. And I am looking forward to what she's doing next. But yeah, pleasantly surprised, and to make to make people care at this level and be this invested, and teach people about your religion, the culture, the partition, which people never probably even heard of ever. So, and you being the main thing, it's your first ever acting gig. Yeah, I think it's fantastic work. I'd give her an 8, to be honest. Not A in terms of she shouldn't be Oscar nominated or anything, but in terms of from scratch, from being an unknown to carrying a series, the girl's done good.
Yeah, and I know, Sol, you were expressing some of your concerns about her more emotional acting, but overall, how are you feeling about Ms. Marvel in the MCU?
I think she did a fantastic job with and it was really these only 2 moments. The one with the mother in the last scene, and then her with Kamran in this scene, in this episode. But throughout, I just find her charming and sweet, and just I think the words "you fall for her" that Bogz said, that's 100%. And it's kind of the same reason why I like the I like the comic so much, is she's really bringing the comic, or the essence of the comic, to life, even though there's things that have changed a little bit from the comic book. The essence of the story and the love in the story is really being shown on screen. And I think too, it's her being a massive fan of the MCU really, like Bogz says, shines through. And I can't wait to see what she does next. So I am now an Iman Vellani fan.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, with this being her first thing, I feel like she's going to be a great actress in the future. She just has some things to work on, which any phenomenal actor now, you go to their early stuff and you're like, oh, they had some things to learn, and then you see in their later stuff they learned it.
Yeah, this is a real Cinderella story. This is a fan's dream come true. You're a fan of something and you took a picture of yourself for Instagram, and now you are that character. She
got the job off of WhatsApp.
You got the job off of WhatsApp.
That's such a Brown thing.
And to see it also, you're not just playing this character, you're playing this character in a medium that is not only introducing this character, but like what Bogz touched on, introducing elements of history and culture that the average, Disney Plus watcher, MC watcher probably has no idea even exists. And to be making that kind of a landmark showing on your first ever acting job, as somebody who was just I kind of like that Ms. Marvel. I think I might dress up as her and see what happens. And
my older brother was just I'm really liking the show, and he's like, I didn't know if I was like it because it's about a character that I don't care much about because he played the Avenger game. He's like, and I was like, and a religion I don't care about. And I was just he's like, but I love the show. And so I was something like my brother, who was outright was just yeah, I didn't care about her, but I care about the show.
Yeah, it just shows what can be done when they take the time to get the right people in the right positions, directors, actors, writers, and just give a damn about what they're creating. They weren't just creating this to bullet point a larger story in the MCU. They gave a damn about what they were making, and they tried to make it meaningful. And I think that overall that really came through. How you feel, Bogz?
I think some of the some of the best shows, I think, like for example, The Boys, is that every show is, for example, just to refer to The Boys specifically, every episode is like a 9 out of 10, and the finale is what it is, right? You're telling a story over a set amount of episodes, set amount of time, and that's a good season.
Yeah.
As opposed to some of the, for example, the Disney Plus episodes where you get mediocre at best episodes, and then the final episode there's loads of reveals and references and a few post-credit scenes that make you think, oh, okay, so something else, that will be in something else, keeping everything to the last episode. But this is in that similar vein to The Boys, where you're getting really decent episodes, entertaining, educational, informative, fun, coming of age stuff, whatever, because that's the kind of genre of this episode, this series. It's things in every episode where it's entertaining, and obviously the finale is what it is. It wasn't my favorite episode, to be honest, but it was. There was things in every episode that kept you watching, and obviously you got the reveals in the last episode. So it was in that format that I prefer, as opposed to having underwhelming and filler episodes every week, like Obi-Wan, for example, and then like a good final episode. So or like every Disney Plus episode that's series that I've seen. So yeah, it was in that vein of telling a good story. If you tell a good story, good characters, good writing, to me, I'm not asking for a lot. Tell a good story that'll keep me invested every week, and and I'm in. And I think this was in that vein. And I said it the first minute of the show. I said I was pleasantly surprised, and it kept me. That was kind of kept me on my mind throughout the whole way through. So and like Soul, like your brother, this show ain't for everybody, and then not everyone is going to give this show a chance. But if you do, you might learn a few things. So for the people that have, good for them.
I know my brother and my mom were having a rough time with it, just because it is such a geared towards a younger crowd, I think, show.
Yeah.
And my mom is her age. I won't say it on the internet because she'll disown me. And my brother is my brother, and he's just at that age where everything's kid stuff. And so so I get why they might have a harder time with it. But I think if you're really in touch with your inner child, or just looking for something fun and lighthearted that also has a lot of heart to it, give it a shot, and you might find yourself saying, you know what, I liked that. I had a good time.
Or relating to these people, this culture that you might, sure some people have never met Muslims before, or Pakistanis before, or been to a mosque before. This is a way to educate yourself if you wish, if you care. Again, it's not compulsory. You don't have to, of course, but if there is that intrigue, or if you want to, culture yourself, maybe try something like this. You might, like I said, you might learn a thing or two.
I learned a lot watching this show. I learned a great deal, and then also having you here as well, Bogz, to expand on certain things as well that maybe we had questions about, was great as well. I mean, this has been a really good learning experience about a culture that I don't have, like aside from you and one person I went to college with. I don't know anybody with even remotely similar background to anything going on in this show. So it was a big learning experience for me, and I'm very glad I watched it.
Yeah, it's fun, man. Different people. I think, learning just from different cultures, things around the world. I mean, this is how we're kind of, I don't want to go too, emotional about it or political about it, but we're all the same people. It's just we're in different parts of the world. It's just becoming a cultured, just learn about different cultures, or like different races, different places. I think like we're from different places, so we can learn about. It's a way of coming together where you learn about different places, different races. The food they eat, what they wear. In a way, there's all these different cultures and races and places, but you know, it's a way for people to come together. That's the way I see it, you know.
We're all
but, yeah.
fundamentally want the same things.
Right. And
a good
again,
life
to reiterate,
and love, like, and love for your family and your
sure.
food and stuff like that. Like, it's just
Right.
family.
I was also absolutely not going to watch this show, but it's a testament to it that, you know, I thought, oh, what's this coming of age thing? You know, it's for little girls. It's, you know, it's a character, it's a new character from a comic book that I don't care about, that I never read. But yeah, you know, acting's good. It was super sweet, charming. Writing's good. So it made me care about it. So yeah, well done to all the Miss Marvel team, I guess.
We got Bogz on board,
right?
Miss Marvel fans. We got him on board.
And if there's one thing that this show taught me, it's that Najaf has the best Euros in Jersey. I love it.
And you know what? I'll shout out the mother character as well in this.
Yeah.
I think she was consistently made me laugh. I've seen her in other things as well. She's obviously in The Big Sick, which probably the biggest movie she's in as far as I'm aware. But yeah, she's I'm kind of looking forward to her work. You know, her kind of comedic stuff that she'll be in. I was aware of her before, but yeah, I think she shined in this series as well. So shout out to her.
And now her and Kumail are in the MCU.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear what we thought about this episode and about this show. We want to hear what you guys thought as well, though. So let us know down in the comments, or let us know on Twitter. All of our Twitter stuff's down in the description. You can like this video, subscribe to our channel, check out everything else we have coming down the pipeline. Coming up soon, we're going to be having the Cassian Andor series is going to be dropping on Disney Plus, so we'll be looking forward to that, as well as my Stranger Things watch along, some other stuff we got going on as well. So many things. Just watch them all. It's all fantastic stuff. And we'll see you guys again here next time on Off the Wall.